Welcome to Ask the Accountant, the podcast that is made for you. Weekly podcast live Mondays from 8:30 a.m., released on the podcast service of your choice on Wednesdays. Your main weekly hosts, Aaron, Patrick, and Johann. Got something to ask? Submit your questions below or ask during the show. Podcast loading. We are currently getting everything set up behind the scenes, so sit back, relax, and we will be with you in a few seconds. Enjoy.
Hello and welcome to Easter Bank Holiday. We are here. Ask the Accountant is broadcasting live on a bank holiday because, quite frankly, Aaron and I have run out of Easter eggs and we've got nothing better to do with our Monday morning than come and talk to you, all of you beautiful people. So, as always, I'm joined today by Aaron, my co-host. Aaron, how are you? How was your Easter weekend?
Very good, thank you. I actually haven't run out of Easter eggs because I wanted to do a world exclusive of my Easter egg that got to me. So I got a personalised one this year. Look at this. There's me enjoying myself on QuickBooks Connect. And then we get the star of the show on the back as well. We get a little puppy there as well. So yeah, I thought,
personalised Cadbury's mini egg Easter egg. I'm impressed.
Yeah, so I was impressed with that. That was a great little show. So yeah, no, good Easter. It was busy for us. We've been taking the dog for loads of walks and enjoying our time, seeing the family and all that sort of stuff. But back to the grind today, unfortunately. Back to the grind today. So got a busy week ahead of me. So I thought it was the best thing to do was get us up and going. And we do have people in the chat. We said there'll be no one here today being bank holiday Easter. But Paul, thank you very much. It's great to see you, and I hope you had a great Easter.
Yeah. So yeah, if you are joining us live, make sure you stick a comment in, say hello, give us a wave, and we will give you a shout out as always. If you've got any questions, stick them in, and we'll either get to them at the point of time you ask or later on in the show. I spent my weekend in the garden, gardening away. I do enjoy getting into the garden. It's first week of April is always a new start. So that's my greenhouse is now planted up. I've planted my strawberries. I've dug a new flower bed. I filed 3 tax returns.
What, from the greenhouse?
From the greenhouse, because the Wi-Fi does reach the greenhouse. Yep. We've got a very strategic
green accounting. You should be pushing that. That's eco-friendly accounting. That is.
Can I be B certified just because I file from the greenhouse? We've got a table and chairs outside that's very strategically placed because I know it sits in the sun all day for Claire, but also for me, the Wi-Fi can reach it, so I can run the business from there. More people joining us to say good morning. Good morning from Rachel, and morning from ABL Reselling as well. Fantastic.
Excellent. Glad you can join us.
People on a bank holiday Monday really must have better things to do than listen to us dribble on. Christ. Right. So, Aaron, we have news, don't we not? We have news to talk about. So let's have a look. Where do we start? Well, as I said, new tax return season, and I always enjoy watching the socials on tax return season and seeing who can and can't file and whose softwares have kept up to date and whose haven't. So it looks like TaxCalc released a 22 to 23 tax return update, which was a bit buggy. So they've had to re-release it. I believe Capium had some issues with users not being able to file straight away, Aaron, from what you were saying.
In fairness, it was literally an hour.
So it's not good enough.
We got to give them
1 minute past midnight on the 6th of April, I want to file.
It was typical social media moaning. I think that's what it was on that one.
Yeah. What is interesting, though, is that people were keen. They were ready to try and crack on. We sent a Google form out 2 weeks before the 6th of April, asking all of our clients to tell us when they wanted to file their tax return this year. And about 20%. I'm going to take my watch off because it keeps trying to talk to me.
Siri was not happy with that. Siri was not happy at all.
And we've we've had about 20% of our clients come back and book their tax return in for the month they wanted doing, which is fantastic. It enables us to facilitate and manage our resources better. So very happy with that. And we've already got our first 3 tax returns filed, 1 partnership and 2 self-employed. So, and they're not mine. Normally it's mine that goes in first, but I've not done mine yet. But yeah, clients are already filing, and we've got other clients asking, which is nice. How are you getting on your end, Aaron?
So similar sort of thing. It's nice because I feel like, especially lately with everything that's happened with COVID and everything, I felt like last year and the year before, people were slower and slower and slower as normal to get items in, especially the ones that were, bless them, struggling. It was very much a case that they were trying to prioritize other things, and the tax return wasn't the top of their priority, which you can understand when their business is on the brinks of collapse. So it's good to see that kind of that mind shift has definitely changed. A couple of the clients that were really late have already filled in their chat list for us. They've already got them in. We've filed a couple as well. And I think it's just good to see that mind shift has changed over. One pro tip for anyone out there who's also using Accounting Manager, though, remember to actually get your or reset your tax return checklist, because I had a couple of not upset clients, but they were frustrated clients when they were trying to log in and submit theirs, because we'd asked them to through automation to go make sure you get your tax return checklist in on time for us. And they're all logging in going, where is this checklist that you talk about? So yeah, pro tip, make sure that's all set, ready to go. We missed that this year, but no, it was quickly turned around, quickly changed. And yeah, we've got, like I said, quite a few people already filling them in, which is good to see. So yeah, it's hopefully, fingers crossed, this one, in my, touching wood here, hopefully this is going to be a nice year for us in terms of trying to get clients on board.
Definitely. Starting the year as we mean to go on. How long that will last is a different matter, but at least we're starting in the right footsteps. Cool. Okay, so let's get on to some real news, Aaron. There's been a disruption in the force of the accounting world. Sage have launched something. So last week, at the end of last week, we got all the latest news in, and Accounting Web were covering that Sage had launched some free bookkeeping solutions for accountants to use, which were targeting individuals that are starting out on their digital bookkeeping journey. So interesting that Sage have said it's completely free. It's there for people to use. They've used words like game changing and first ever type of offering to accountants. I think that's because it's free, whereas we've got Zero Go and QuickBooks Self-Employed already out there, which are payable products. Well, Zero Go's free if all you want is an invoice issuing software, but if you want anything more, then you pay for it. And then, so yeah, Aaron, what are your thoughts on Sage entering the game of self-employed and targeting those smaller individuals like QuickBooks and Xero started doing over the years?
I think the most important thing you said about that was they launched a new piece of software. They didn't buy one. When was the last time that we've, heard that from Sage lately? They've been on a really aggressive acquisition pipeline at the moment, haven't they? So now I think it's quite exciting. I mean, the idea behind it is sound, isn't it? It gives us accountants the opportunity to have, you use this term a lot, don't you? Gateway drug, and it gives us that opportunity to give us a chance to make sure that every single client, if you're on the Sage ecosystem, will have some form of digital software. And I think that's really, really clever. I mean, the only comparison we've got at this point in time is Zero Go, as you've already said. That is a free piece of software. Just a quick correction, though, it's paid for if you want to send invoices, but free if you just want to record expenses. I think that's the way around, isn't it? Yeah. Right. But either way, like when you think about it, is it really, it has a very small niche of a use case, doesn't it, for that free tier? It's sound idea, clever part of it, but as we always say with Zero Go, like the fact it doesn't connect to the bank account really ruins kind of the big experience for it. So they've not done that. There's from day one can connect to the bank account, which I think is a massive plus point. You know,
How very modern.
I know, right? I know. It says it's got unlimited storage to it as well. My only thing for this is that how are they going to monetize this in some way? And there must be some way of monetizing it. Is it the fact that they expect that the accountant will have X amount of licenses that then they can lean on? Because someone like me, I don't have a single Sage license at the moment. I don't think proper that I'm actually using for clients, but I could throw these out to, you know, to certain clients or something. Maybe even all my directors can have a solution like this to record their expenses for the year. You know, that's what potentially I could use it for. So I don't know what the kind of monetization way of doing it. I don't know if there's ads in it or something like that. We've not looked at, have we? But the principle is brilliant.
I think the monetization concept is get them early, get them hooked. And it's that gateway drug thing again of let's get into these individuals when they're starting up early with a free or very cheap solution. And once they're in, as they grow, because a percentage of those businesses will grow, they'll outgrow the free solution and require a more complex solution, which is where, well, we're already with Sage, we'll stay with Sage. So I think it's a long-term gain here. It's a long-term plan. How many of those people will actually stay and grow is a different matter. That when I look at my client base and how many clients just sit steady and stagnant, and they're quite happy with that. They aren't interested in making millions of pounds. They just want to continue as they are. I don't know if Sage has maybe underestimated that volume, but I imagine they've got the data that supports their marketing plan. Because, yeah, it's free bookkeeping software. It can then generate the financial reports. It doesn't link to the free Sage tax return software that accountants have free access to. So you've got to generate your financial reports, export them, and then input that information manually into Sage, into their tax solution that they've got, which accountants, again, have free access to.
Because in fairness, that's what Zero Go does. And we praise them on that one, don't we? You know, Zero Go, for all intents and purposes, just looks like a proper Zero license to the accountant, doesn't it? They don't know any other difference.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, it basically this is all of this was announced back in October, but I think it kind of got missed because it was just an intention, we're going to do this, and then MTD ITSA got delayed, and it was just assumed this would be delayed. But what I have to, you know, tip my hat off to Sage for is they've released lists under a completely different angle to any other software provider at the moment, because Xero and QuickBooks and Co are still banging on about MTD ITSA, even though it's years away now, and clients just don't care. Whereas Sage have gone, no, we're here to help you digitalize your product. We're going to help you digitalize your bookkeeping. Oh, and the benefit in the long term will be you're also MTD ITSA ready. So they've really responded to this change in the market and gone, well, actually, we're not going to threaten you with something that's in 4 years' time. We're going to talk to you about the benefits of digitalization. And to be fair to Sage, they've been saying that from the day ITSA got cancelled or postponed, sorry. So, yeah, I think other accounting softwares need to take a bit of a leaf out of the Sage book and change their rhetoric at the moment. Instead of going on about MTD ITSA, let's talk about the benefits of digital record keeping and the benefits that brings to a business. So it's the same tool. It's just refocused, I think, on those benefits of digital record keeping. But yeah, no, interesting announcement from Sage, who traditionally haven't necessarily targeted those smaller individuals. They've always been more interested in the high end of the small business and medium businesses, haven't they? So it's a new space for them. But obviously one that, like Xero and QuickBooks have said in the past, is worth investing into.
Yeah, it's interesting that just by looking at the kind of feature list and everything else, it seems that it's got a receipt capture built directly in. So I'm assuming it's auto entry powered. You kind of can make that assumption, can't you? But is that the first for the product? Because I believe that the only way that you can get receipt capture into the main version of Sage. And again, chat, tell us if we're wrong, especially if there's a Sage user out there. But I believe that you've got to add auto entry to Sage and then use auto entry to get the details in. I don't believe there's a capture through the Sage app scenario. Could be wrong on that. It could be something that's already there. But that's quite impressive, though, that they're using it in this solution, that there is a receipt capture tool. I mean, they need it to stay competitive. That's what every one of the competitors have got, haven't they?
Yeah.
But that's impressive that it's there. Or they're saying that, has Free Agent ever gone down receipt capture yet? They've not got that.
Free Agent have got the ability to take pictures in their app on the mobile phone for the business user. I don't know how good the OCR technology on it is and how manual it is. I believe it's about on par with QuickBooks Self-Employed, so you take the picture and you've got to manually enter a lot of the information yourself. But yeah, Free Agent have got that ability to attach images to their expenses and their bank explanations.
So it's because it is really important to have it built in, isn't it? Where the other solution is to give them give your client a copy of Dext, or I forget what the Xero branded one's called, HubDoc. That's it. Yeah, and give them the options to do that, which for most clients is fine, but you'll always have that one client that find it tricky and find it confusing to have multiple apps on their phone. What app does what sort of thing? So this is a clever way of doing it. But by the sounds of it, you tell them to download this thing called Sage, off to the races they go. So yeah, I mean that's impressive. And if it is utilizing auto entries technology, then we know it's a robust OCR technology platform, isn't it? It's arguably up there with with Dext, really, in terms of functionality. So yeah, it's interesting to see that they've implemented that directly. And I think that's the beauty of building their own software from scratch, isn't it? They get to dictate what goes in, what software, what part of their ecosystem they can already utilize. So yeah, I'm being interested to have a play around. But you mentioned 2 though, didn't you, or 2 new packages? But can I only see one, or am I missing a trick here?
So they've got one that's called the individual plan.
Yep.
Which is targets at individuals with very basic accounting requirements. And then they've got, so that's the individual plan, which is free. No, I'm also confused. So they've launched 2 new packages. I'm just reading through here. But they're only talking about the individual plan.
Yeah, maybe we need someone from the chat to tell us where we're wrong on this one.
Or we need to reach out to our friend Chris and see what he's got to tell us. We might have a quick chat with him.
I mean, I did have a look on my Sage dashboard to see if I can add it, and it's not giving me the option yet. But I assume it'll be one of those that will come out in time, won't it? And
I mean, I think it's quite impressive that they've got the ability to run reports in there. There's a reporting functionality in there from day one of the product release. I mean, it only took Xero 6 months to build it after launch, didn't it? So Sage is doing well there.
Made it a feature.
Yeah.
Brand new feature. I'm surprised Xero didn't say at the time that was revolutionary and first of its kind.
Well,
reporting in a piece of software.
But yeah, you can financial reporting functionality, including trial balance, profit and loss, balance sheet, and audit trail, along with any normal activity reports. So yeah, well done, Sage. You've thought this through and delivered a product with everything there from day one.
So I've got a question for you. This obviously opens up the ecosystem for the Sage users. They've now got that, ultimately they've got the opportunity, if you're in the Sage ecosystem, to have the smallest and small client all the way to the biggest client now, haven't you? In there, you can prepare accounts, do payroll, you do everything. We know of Xero, they've got Xero Go, and they can go up to so far, and then they've got that transaction issue that stops them. Obviously, we're quite QuickBooks orientated. That's fair to say, and we know that from QuickBooks Connect that they've improved on their offering. Now we've got payroll, we've got practice management-esque solutions in there. Do you think though that as much as QuickBooks Self-Employed is there, do you think they need to have a rethink about what QuickBooks Self-Employed is now to stay relative? They launched first, fair play to them,
Yeah.
But it feels like both of the other scenarios now have a more appealing product, let's say, than QuickBooks Self-Employed, because we know it's got its flaws. We know it's not quite fit for purpose from an accountant's point of view. Clients love it. Clients absolutely love QuickBooks Self-Employed. It's brilliant for them. But we know as an accountant's point of view, we don't quite have all the bells and whistles we need to be able to deliver a proper service to our client. So do you think this will make them maybe rethink QuickBooks Self-Employed? Or
I think the only thing I need them to do with QuickBooks Self-Employed to make it a functional option for us and viable option is to give us that integration piece where so if I go from QuickBooks Starter to go to Essentials, to go to Plus, to go to Advanced, it's as simple as upgrading the package. It continues as it is. The challenge I have with Self-Employed is the effort it takes to move someone from the Self-Employed package to QBO Essentials or whatever one I'm going to put them on, because you can outgrow the Self-Employed package very easily without any, the moment you take on a van on hire purchase, you've outgrown Self-Employed. The moment you borrow money or you have a credit card, you've outgrown Self-Employed. As soon as you need that balance sheet feature, you can't use Self-Employed. You need to go to Simple Start or Essentials. So if QuickBooks can overcome that migration headache, then actually I'd be happy to start a client on a Self-Employed and move up. But until they've done that, I'll be encouraging everyone to use Simple Start and go from there. Just because I want to see that journey without any effort on our part to change products. It needs to be a slick journey. And it'll be interesting to see how Sage have built out this new offering and how it interconnects to scaling up offerings.
Yeah.
Xero, to be fair to Xero, they seem to have nailed that bit with Xero Go, because from an accountant's point of view, as you said earlier, it's just a Xero license. And then we can upgrade them to better licenses as they grow. It makes it an even fuller product offering from Sage. And if I was starting out, it would make them even more competitive in that space than as a brand new accounting firm, if I hadn't already done everything with QuickBooks. It makes them a much more serious contender than they were a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I think you're right there. And just so we know, is this NDA? I don't think it is. I think I'm okay. But yeah, the whole piece about migration.
Find out when you get sued.
Yeah, exactly. The whole QuickBooks Self-Employed to QuickBooks Online is a solution that's been developed for a while now. So it's going to be released at some point. When, we don't know. How robust it's going to be, what features we're going to get, we don't know. But the idea is that they wanted to bring it in. We said a few times on QuickBooks Labs, didn't we, that what we hoped for with MTD it's coming along and everything else was they were just going to sunset QuickBooks Self-Employed, because there was a lot of work needed to be able to make that MTD compliant. Saying that the £50,000 thing probably actually means that it may never even need MTD compliant at this point in time. Maybe we'll see what happens with regulations going forward. But at this point in time, it just feels like QuickBooks Self-Employed it's a good product and it's there and it does what it needs to do, but it falls short in so many ways that we find it difficult to push it to our clients. What if they were to be really aggressive on it and made it a free tier? Would that sway you, or would you still think that Self-Employed QuickBooks Online Simple Start would be the better solution for them?
It'll depend on the client's goals. If the client's unlikely to need a balance sheet in the next few years and they're just going to tick along, then absolutely fine. So I've got a yoga instructor. She would probably never need the complexity of Simple Start. Self-Employed will work for her really well and for a long period of time. So for that reason, I would happily recommend Self-Employed, whether you're paying it or whether it's free. But regardless of the price point, I need to think of how much of our time do we need to invest in migrating in the future to the next product. depending on how quickly they grow and how much more complex they get.
Yeah. I mean, we do migrations all the time from simple start, self-employed simple start, and it is it's not a long process because there's not much data to bring through anyway. It is just a case of an export of the data and you bring it straight in. So I don't know if the
job though, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know if the migration's the issue for me. I feel like my biggest letdown with it is the lack of API in there. Like, there's no way we can connect Client Engager or whatever we need to connect. In our case, it would be getting our accounts production software in there, because there is now a manual process. If we do want to create a set of accounts based on it, we do now have to export the data. We also know that the data is, it's only ever as good as who's put that data in. So, you are very reliant on what the client's done and not done it, and not done it. Is very difficult, or is much more difficult to assess how clean and how quality that data is going to be. We don't have those tools.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that's the missing bit. If we can find a way to have an opportunity to maybe connect some API, or maybe have an option to get more options as an accountant to be able to review that data, I think then it becomes a much more attractive option. I just feel like at the moment it was brought in, we've had tags added to it. That's the only meaningful update I can actually think of in the last 2 years, 3 years, maybe.
Yep.
Has it been? So I do feel like it's kind of been left to simmer a little bit. Maybe though, the way that they could entice or give us an option to be more competitive to the likes of Sage is to give us a more aggressive pricing if we are, platinum or above, or paywall it like Zero do, because that seems to work, doesn't it? It keeps them sticky, it keeps them in the.
Yeah, I personally don't agree with paywalling, purely from a point of view of the smaller firms suffer. And that's one of the key reasons I decided not to go with Zero as my primary partner for software, because they believe in supporting, the bigger customers, the bigger firms get more support and more perks. So they have an unfair advantage over the smaller guys. So I think if QuickBooks are going to do anything with it, it needs to be available to all firms of all sizes.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I feel like the difference is though, like Zero, they prevent you from using functionality, don't they? They completely and utterly cull whatever that function is going to be. I think what QuickBooks, I think Sage do a similar model as well, is they're trying to just reward you for staying sticky. And that I appreciate that bit, give us something back. Like we've got so many licenses with you, or we've got so many points with you, we've got so many people signed, or whatever it's going to be, gives us an opportunity to be this tier, and then we get X, Y, Z. I mean, at the moment, it's like discounts to DocuSign and things like that, isn't it? It's items like that. But I think if they could open that up to be more, more perks within the ecosystem, I think that's where, for me personally, I'd be more excited about it. And they'll give me more, more reasons to try and go up the ladder, although we're at the top anyway. So, but it would, it'd encourage the others to kind of join, wouldn't it? And others to come up there. So I don't know, because I feel like Sage are making some really important moves at the moment, and there's got to be some sort of change or some response from Zero and QuickBooks to be able to stay competitive. Otherwise, like you said, if you are starting out fresh as a new accountant, I don't know why you wouldn't choose Sage at this point. I feel like it's almost a no-brainer. So yeah, it's interesting times, isn't it?
Who's potentially even more threat at making a lack of return, not making a return on their investment on this because of Sage, is Dext. They've released their MTD ITSA solution that's now not going to really have huge uptake until whenever it is in 2027, with however many clients that actually are impacted by the 50,000 mark. But they're charging £5 a month for a very simple solution. So if you've now got Sage, which has got a more complex solution than Dex for free.
Yep.
You've got QuickBooks, which has got a more complex solution for around the same price for wholesale, for pro advisor pricing.
Arguably
Zero,
more, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've got Zero, who we don't know what their pricing actually is until they finally get round to announcing it and all the features that go with it. But they'll be in line with Dext, I would imagine. Who's going to recommend the MTD ITSA solution for Dext at that price when you can recommend QuickBooks, Sage, or potentially Zero at or below that price with better functionality?
Yeah.
Like,
And
I
you
don't
wouldn't.
see where Dext are getting their return on investment.
No. It felt like, I mean, Dex needed to do something for MTD.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure this bare bones approach was anything that was going to entice people over. It was almost like, especially that price point, that they needed to come out swinging with an actual bookkeeping solution, whatever that was going to look like. It fails that. What about have Sage though almost cannibalized their own product lineup though? Because what about Hammock in all this? Because yes, Hammock, we will always say if you are a rental owner or you have rental properties, Hammock is the best solution out there. But if you're a really small, maybe one person rental property, doesn't this solution kind of fit your needs for that?
Yeah, I mean, just to be clear though, Hammock's not owned by Sage. They just have a strategic partnership.
Yeah.
I still think Hammock offers value to its client base in a way that no one else, even Sage, offers. Like the fact that Hammock will remind you when your certificates and insurances need redoing. The fact that Hammock revalue your property with a direct link to Zoopla and show you your gains and your profitability based on return on investment and stuff. I think Hammock's still safe. I don't think that's a concern for Hammock. I don't think Sage are worried that they're treading on toes there. I think, the value that Hammock offers is still phenomenally better than anything we've got on the market for that market industry.
Cool. Good.
But yeah, no, speaking of MTD, we've not put this on our list of things to discuss, but here's a question for you. We now know you don't have to be MTD ITSA registered and filing in 2027 unless your turnover's over 50,000, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
We had the same kind of thing for VAT, didn't we? Where you didn't have to be MTD registered for VAT if your turnover was below 85,000. And then a couple of years later, you did. As a firm, we opted to make everyone MTD registered because we knew eventually everyone was going to be MTD registered. Now, by the sounds of it, that's probably not going to happen with MTD ITSA. There's always going to be a section under 30,000 that doesn't need to be MTD registered. But for the sake of simplicity, as a firm, do you just go, well, actually, we'll register everyone for MTD because then it's all going through the same system? Have you thought anything about that, Aaron?
Yeah, we had these conversations internally, and we don't know any other way than making every one of our clients MTD ITSA. I mean, it's even now, even as complicated as now, I've got myself as MTD on the beta, and then everyone else is the traditional method. And even that's complicated because I'm having to manually try and figure out when mine are due. I mean, at the end of the day, if I forget to file for a particular period, whoopie-doo. It's not going to be the end of the world, is it? Yeah. But it is still one extra plate I've got to juggle, one extra thing I've got to think about. And we all know, we're trying to scale practices. Everyone's in the same boat. And I don't think having two different ways to service your clients from a self-employed point of view is going to be doing that. Saying that, at the same time, your directors, what are you going to do with them? Like, there's no way you're going to make them MTD. It's to declare zero amount of income and having to generate a license and having to put that in place. So I think we're always going to have this two-tiered approach going forward, and that's going to be the frustration, isn't it? Like, we're going to have to, and it's just going to have to be a case, I think, for us that any proper sole trader accounts, which we don't have that many of in fairness, but the ones we do, and going forward, I think we just have to insist of MTD compliant. We push them onto MTD, so we don't have to keep looking at their, their turnover or anything if they've breached the 50,000 or whatever the figure is going to be there. But then we're going to have that other tier approach for them. So yeah, it's going to be a tricky transition, I think.
Yeah.
But I suppose it's exactly the same as our bookkeeping services. Some of our bookkeeping clients have got VAT, some haven't.
Yeah.
You've just got to have a different approach for each one, haven't you? So yeah, it's but I do feel like we've just got to take that choice that if you are going to be sole trader, then we're going to have to just have that MTD it's enabled for you as soon as possible. Otherwise, we're juggling too many different types of clients, aren't we? What about yourself? Have you had any thoughts about it?
Yeah, we're very much along the same lines of you. I think our only overall concern is if we register a client for MTD ITSA, that's it. They are registered. They can't come back off it. If they then move away from us and go to another accountant who hasn't got the same approach, that causes that client a headache.
Yeah, true.
Because they need quarterly returns doing, and a percentage of accountants and bookkeepers out there won't be doing quarterly returns because they don't see the need because they're under the MTD registered threshold. So the clients are going to have to be really clear that they are MTD registered and that's the level of service they need. And our concern is that will catch some people out. But yeah, it's one of the ongoing discussions we're having, shall we say. We use Client Engager, which helps because every task we can mark whether that client's MTD registered or not, so we know how to work appropriately to that client's requirements, which is helpful. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting mess to deal with in the future.
But for me, it's not just having a chance; it's who monitors that service.
Yeah.
Like at the moment, there's one. Like there's me. Like, would it be viable for me to get one of my team members to monitor that on a monthly or quarterly basis? Probably not. Yeah.
Yeah.
At what point though do I go? Actually, there's enough meat on the bone here that I've got to dedicate some resource to it, put some time to it. That's it. They're the bits I think is the tipping point. At some point, we've got to figure out, and I think that's why for me, like you did with MTD VAT, I think we've just got to do a wholesale approach to make it viable. Like, as an accountant, can we offer a service just for a handful of clients? I don't think we can we? I don't think there's enough capacity at the moment in time for something like MTD. So I feel like the wholesale approach is the only way. I get what you're saying about and that could give you negative goodwill later because there is, well, why did my accountant put me on this and now it's going to affect me for the rest of my life, sort of thing. I can see what you're saying there. So yeah, and I suppose we've also got to be careful that we don't make that decision on behalf of our clients. I suppose we've got to give them an opportunity to opt in, haven't we? And
we're going to have to consult with them.
Yeah, what happens if they don't opt in? That's a discussion for another day, isn't it? But I think we've got to protect ourselves and ask them to opt in. So yeah, this is where the whole 50k thing is so frustrating, isn't it? Like, that doesn't help anyone in my eyes. It just adds a further level of complication that's gonna make it more difficult for us. So
it definitely is. Speaking of making life more difficult for us, let's have a chat about HMRC. Look at that tangent. Right. So HMRC are up to their usual tricks. They've obviously worried that they're a bit short on staffing and everyone's booking holidays. So how do we deal with this? Do we increase our staffing levels? What do we do? We'll shut down the agent dedicated helpline. That'll be best. So at the end of last week, it was announced by HMRC that the agent dedicated helpline will be restricted to only dealing with tax code notifications and PAYE issues, reconciliation issues, I believe. So once again, we're going to divert all of that traffic from the agent dedicated helpline into the general helpline for us all to sit in the same queue as all the other taxpayers and hope the phone doesn't hang up on us before we get through to someone that's not a machine. Yeah. I mean, what are your thoughts, Aaron?
I mean, obviously they're doing this so that we get a fancy new feature at the end of this, that when we ring up going forward,
an employee.
No, there's going to be no benefit to us whatsoever on this, is there? It is just a case of resourcing, and and apparently the the accountant's helpline is the one that needs to suffer. So I mean, it does make me a little bit frustrated at the moment that we're still having to use the helpline for so much. Like, why there isn't a digital option for a lot of these things? Why we can't just have a.
They had a web chat browser thing, didn't they? And most accountants raved about it. Like, they found it so much quicker and easier to get some really easy wins on it. And the beauty of it is that was written. You could download the conversation and you had written evidence of what you were doing. But yeah, that's been turned off for a long time now, and that was a real positive step forward, and they've gone backwards on it.
Yeah. I mean, they seem to be going backwards all the time on things, isn't it? I mean, we spoke off air, didn't we, about the ICAW having to get involved of, HMRC were on about turning off the ability to download paper returns. They wanted us to call them and make another phone call to be able to get access to previous data. And I get that HMRC are in a bit of a conundrum at the moment, because they are trying to move from their archaic systems to digital systems, and they are trying to make that transition, and they're trying to move it, and it isn't pretty for us as users of the service, is it? Like, the idea that at the moment that we have to have a agent services account area, and we also have to have our client area, and the two different numbers, and then we've got to make sure we've got 648 in place for each one. And then at the moment it is a minefield, isn't it? And it is difficult for it. So you can kind of understand from HMRC's point of view that they're trying to get the most they can out of their old solution, but again, like, their new solutions are feature less at the moment. There are certain things we can't have access to that we used to have access to before. Just seeing a client list of what VAT clients we have is not available at the moment. We have to shoot for the stars and hope that we can get in by putting the VAT code in, and if we don't, then we've got to troubleshoot one way or another. So I do feel like taking away the telephone number, putting it's just going to give us more work and more hassle, and ultimately means the client's going to get more frustrated, because how many times has it felt like it's an excuse as the accountant? Oh, we're waiting on HMRC. Oh, we're waiting on HMRC. We're waiting on it. We've tried to call HMRC. It just feels like we're trying to pass the baton when we're not. We're just hamstrung at the moment to be able to offer a decent service, because HMRC won't give us the tools we need just to be able to get the job done.
Yeah. We had an issue last week. A client back last year got a letter saying that he owes them £10,000 for corporation tax. We can see on his bank statement that he's made that payment 2 days after we told him to, back in June last year. And they chased him in December for it. We rang them. The phone line went dead halfway through a conversation. Ironically, that's been noted on his record. They've then said, we've made no further attempts to contact them about it. Well, I've got call logs galore that says we have, but they've not made any notes on that. We've even written to them, and they've not recorded that. And then I always tell my guys, whenever you speak to anyone at HMRC, name, date, time, department. The amount of times my guys come back to me and say, yeah, I spoke to so-and-so, but it sounded like a fake name. And it's like, and when you then call back and say, I spoke to so-and-so, well, there's no records of that. I don't think we've got anyone in that department called that. And it's like, what? Yet we're not allowed to record these calls because that's a breach of their privacy. what can we do? At what point do we go, this is the level that we can record, and we will deliver this as HMRC every time to help you with your clients? So they are an absolute nightmare, and I would argue that they are the biggest challenge we as a firm face to deliver the levels of service we want to deliver to our clients on a daily basis. But yeah.
I mean, like their whole like culture at the moment is, oh, it's okay, software's going to provide that for you, and they're just putting reliance on other software to provide that solution. Like, so something as simple again as a breakdown of what back lines you have, you know, who you got registered. Oh, it's okay, software provide that for you, but then they don't give them the tools to give it, or they make it so complicated for them to build a solution around it that it makes it unattainable for us. So it's just a constant battle with them at the moment, isn't it? So
yeah. Well, they tell us to they say, look, we're restricting the agent dedicated helpline. We recommend everyone looks at our online website. So do we not think that I would have gone to their website and tried to find the answer in 5 minutes rather than spend 45 minutes on hold to then spend 60 minutes talking to someone that's not got a clue? Like, if I thought it was online, if I thought their website was going to answer this, I think I'd have checked that first. Like, they seem to think we just default to calling them. We don't. It is the last thing we want to do is call HMRC. We would be much happier if we could just check online and find the resource that we need, but you can't.
Yeah. I mean, I would say in fairness, there are probably too many people that just pick up the phone and don't look. Yep. But that's a training issue their end, isn't it? That's got to be something that goes there. And maybe this is their way of doing that. Maybe they're pushing us and closing the line down so that people do start using the resource more. Maybe that's their thinking behind it. But yeah, for firms who, like you said, the last thing they will ever do is call, we are the ones that are going to get affected by it. But what can we do?
Definitely. Speaking of challenges to our day-to-day working, another segue. Oh, I'm getting good at this. So another segue, speaking of challenges to our plans, social media was in uproar on Thursday. So Thursday, the 6th of April, every Facebook group I was in was commenting. People were saying 0 MTDs down in the afternoon of the last working day before the VAT deadline. So I think most accountants and bookkeepers had planned finish up 5 o'clock on Thursday, nice long weekend, come back to work on Tuesday. So VAT deadline is on Friday, so we'll get that all done on Thursday. We'll have a nice weekend of chilled. By the looks of it, quite a few Xero accountants were working on Friday because the MTD portal was down for 3 or 4 hours for Xero users on Thursday. And it's just another glitch, isn't it? It just, the timings couldn't be worse.
No, and it was we're into the new VAT penalty regime as well. So the client's got fear and God with them at the moment. So, whereas before it was a bit of a slap on the wrist, probably that's all you're going to get. Now they seem to, from a client's perspective, they feel like it's the end of the world if they don't get their VAT return in on time. So, yeah, it's bad timing, like you said. I mean, it's not going well. It's not many good news is coming out of Xero at this point in time, is it? Which is unfortunate for them.
Yeah, no, it's constant cutbacks, redundancies, poorly thought out software releases, critical training, and performance issues, and bank feed issues and MTD issues, etc. Like, if it had been an MTD issue at HMRC's end, fine, because it would have affected everyone. But everyone else was all fine. They were all filing normal. So yeah, it just shows our reliance on our software solution and the importance of finding a solution that is reliable the majority of the time.
Yeah, and it shows that these cutbacks can be really effective. Like that, I don't think anyone has been let go yet. I don't think it's still they are going to be let go. So you can't imagine that the team are any less resourced than they were before. But, if they are doing cutbacks, you'd imagine it's to every department that Zero have. So going forward, does that mean there's less people working behind the scenes to make sure the software is working as intended? That's a scary thought, isn't it, for practices?
Yeah, it really is very concerning. I think Zero need to be more public about where their cutbacks are coming from, because if it is on the support side, then that's a huge red flag for me as a user. Whereas if it was on the sales team side or the development side, even, I could probably tolerate that a bit more than I could them cutting back on support, which they don't have a phone number for anyway. It's got to be an email and 24-hour response. But yeah, it's just a challenge. A challenge that you don't need.
No, not at all.
So, yeah, and Paul Whitehouse has commented, HMRC have been useless lately. Had a letter dated 22nd of March from HMRC, which gave my client a deadline the 21st of March.
Maybe
Wonderful.
It was 2024, though. Maybe.
Yeah. Did they specify a year? But yeah, it's HMRC letters are just another problem. But yeah,
I think pigeon would be quicker sometimes, wouldn't it? Pigeon mail.
Yeah, it would
result back to.
Yeah, it would. Well, the amount of people that are still getting these PayYE reference books to deposit money at the bank, it's just ridiculous systems. So yeah, well, I think that's all of our points we had to discuss, Aaron. We are coming up to the 5 minutes mark before we go off air, and what have you got coming up this week?
I have a really busy week this week. I'm going to York tomorrow, and then London for the last 3 days of the week after that. So back on late Saturday. So yeah,
I like York. York's a great little city to go to.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to going up there, going up north, going to go look around there. It'd be nice. But yeah, really busy. So it's just madness at the moment, I think. And then hopefully, fingers crossed, it kind of calms down a little bit before Caltech's in a month's time, is it now? Is that what we're looking at?
Is it a month? It's a month this week.
Yeah, month and change, isn't it? Yeah. So yeah, it's crazy time. I was jealous that I wasn't in London this week because it was a Star Wars Celebration that came out of nowhere. So messed that timing up, didn't I? If it had been a week before, I could have just wandered around and but no, it was it's going to be a busy old week, I think. And technically it's a 4-day week for most people, isn't it? So
it is. It's down. Yeah, my diary's fairly quiet today, thankfully, so I'm getting some admin done. But then busy week ahead for me as well, like just client meetings. Client Engager's got at least one major update going into beta testing for me to deal with, and to create a video to show everyone what's going to be happening, which is a huge overhaul of one of our features. And then hopefully by the end of the week, I'll have a video of our second major release. But that's it. Peter's been on holiday, our lead developer. I've been on holiday. We're now hitting the ground running. Peter's been back 4 days. We've released a new feature, done 2 new tweaks to current features already. That all went live last week. So back on the development roadmap and running down that roadmap towards the end goal.
So basically you've chained him to the desk then, is that what that's what I'm hearing?
On the condition he gets to come to Accountex though. So
really? Oh, I didn't think you were going to say that publicly, just in case. But
no, the Client Engager team will be at Accountex. We won't have a stall, but we will be wandering around with our branded tops. So anyone that wants to come and talk to us can. We will be there. I'm looking forward to that. That'll be a good.
And what
week.
Better place to go and see Client Engager than straight after our little chat on 5 o'clock on the 10th? Is it
5 o'clock on the 10th of May? We will be live streaming with a live audience. Ask the Accountant. So yeah, that's going to be a good one. I'm really looking forward to that. Any live streams of live audiences are always good, aren't they? So
Yeah,
it'll be fantastic. Get some audience participation, so make sure that you're all there. Quick last minute question in from Paul. Have you considered a 4-day week for your practice? Where do we start with that? So most of my team work a 4-day week already. Or they are on, to be precise, my team are paid a salary as if they were working a 5-day week, but their hours for that week are based around 4 days. So some team members work shorter days over 5 days because that's their preference. Other team members take a day off somewhere in that week, each week. So yes, technically we are a 4-day week practice already. But we're not one of those that turn around and say, right, we don't open on Friday because we only run 4 days. We still deliver a 5-day-a-week operation. We just empower our employees to decide how they use their own hours. So they're on a 35-hour contract instead of a 42-hour contract, but they're paid as if they're on a 42-hour contract. And they spread those hours how they see fit. So I find taking that flexibility to the 4-day week enables your employees to benefit from it, but also your firm to benefit.
Yeah.
Have you looked at it in your firm, Aaron?
Well, I feel like it's different now. But back in the day when you had an actual office that had to be open and manned, then you didn't have a choice. It was people had to be there, people had to man it, you had to do rotas and all that sort of stuff, just so that clients knew that if they were turning up to the office, there was somewhere to talk to them and, pass it over in a more traditional accounting firm. For us, though, we don't need to be as strict. Like, we don't need to have that we must be open from this time to this time sort of mentality. It's all cloud-based, so if we need someone just to keep an eye on things, then we can have someone keeping an eye on things. And I think for me, like my own mental health more than anything else, one thing I do is my calendar's open to the public, so people can book in at whatever time, and to the clients, everything else. But I do try, if I can, to at least take half a day off at some point, just to have that admin time, like you said, just to be able to, like, today's Monday, like it's not been open, it's a bank holiday, so it gives me time to get on top of things and catch up. I've got a travel day to London and everything else, so I know that period's going to be broken down. And I feel like more than should we have a strict 4-day, 5-day, whatever, like you said, you need that flexibility now, don't you? And I think that's more important. And I feel like that's a better mentality, is just knowing that you can't have your full working day, every single moment of every single hour has to be dedicated to work. You do need that time to catch up on things, refresh, and everything else. I think now having that more remote working gives us that flexibility. So, yeah, to be honest, we've never even considered a 4-day working week, but I don't know if we ever need to. I feel like we're flexible enough and we can have that, opportunity with the client and with our staff to be able to make sure that no one's feel like they're, chained to the desk, as was a traditional accounting firm, only 2-3 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing worse, having been in an old-fashioned business myself years ago. Like, there was nothing worse than getting into work on a Friday, having everything done by 10 a.m. because you'd done it all. You're just mopping up the loose ends, and you had to sit there until 5 o'clock on Friday or 4 o'clock on Friday to make your timesheets so you've delivered the amount of hours you're contracted to.
Yeah.
From day one of my business, I've always said, look, if your job's done, go home. If your job's done, disappear. Keep an eye on your emails and phone calls, but disappear. I don't care. I'm not going to hold you to sit down, twiddle your thumbs until you've done the 35 hours that you're contracted to. But yeah, so I think, like you, more flexibility is more important than stating we do a trendy 4-day week.
Yeah, exactly right.
The flexibility has more value to it.
Good question, though, Paul. Good question.
Very good question. Thank you. Brilliant. Right. Well, on that note, we will leave everyone to enjoy their bank holiday. If you're watching back this, then don't forget we go live at 8:30 a.m. every Monday morning on all your favourite social media channels, whether that's YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitch, and I think that's all of them, isn't it?
I think that is, yeah.
But yeah, so we go live at 8:30 every Monday morning, UK time, to the world to go through all the topics we've discussed today and many, many more. If you've got any questions that you'd like us to answer live on show or any topics you'd like us to cover, please make sure you use the link in the comments to log those questions and topics, and we will look at those and get back to everyone. But yes, so thank you very much to everyone for joining us today on your bank holiday. Go relax. Hopefully the sunshine's still out, and enjoy your Easter eggs. Thank you very much.
Cheers, everyone. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.